Hey there! It's December 27th, and this is Confronting Conservatives. I'm Barry P. Cook, and y'all, it's very early in the morning, well, 9 o'clock, and I've already had to do some conservative confronting. This time, as it often is, it's, the MAGA people, Marjorie Taylor Greene, on the Twitter, freaking out, as she has done many times before, about drag queen shows that are sometimes all ages shows and result in, children in the audience. And they think it should be stopped, that they're grooming children. And in this tweet, the interesting part is that she said, I think for the first time, that it doesn't matter if it's heterosexual, LGBTQ, drag queens, or whatever kind of sex stuff. Kids should not be involved. And it's hilarious to me for a number of reasons. First of all, drag has been something that kids have been watching for decades. Klinger on MASH, Milton Berle in my childhood, and certainly the lives of my parents before they had me. Some Like It Hot, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, Bosom Buddies, Bugs Bunny did drag. Okay? There are a ton of other examples. And they never protested that. And those things never harmed any kids. Now, there are drag shows that can be sexually explicit. And, that might not be the best thing for kids to be exposed to. But where are all these MAGA people at the sites of these adult sex shops? Other than inside patronizing them. I mean, I'm sure they don't, in some neighborhoods, some parts of the country, you won't find them because they don't love them and they keep them out or whatever. But they exist, and I've never seen a MAGA or any other protest outside one of them. Now, the easy answer to that is, well, that's because they use them too, and they're not going to protest things that they patronize. And you can give that same answer for why they don't protest parents or whatever taking kids to R-rated movies or movie theaters that look the other way and let people under 18 or under 17 get into R-rated movies, which, by the way, isn't illegal as far as I know, because they don't protest that either. You don't see them hanging out at movie theaters going, stop taking your kids to R-rated movies with sex scenes in them. You don't see them outside movie theaters saying, stop allowing people to bring because the recommendation, the way it works with movies is there are no restrictions on who can go to what movie. They probably won't sell a ticket to a 12-year-old, but there's no law that says an adult can't take a kid to an R-rated movie with sex in it, like a 12-year-old or whatever. It's just a recommendation from the Motion Picture Association. It lets parents know what's in the movie so they can make a choice as to whether or not to let their kids see it. There's no law against it. Okay? And I watched R-rated movies all the time as a kid. Now, it wasn't my mother's favorite thing, and I don't think they made a habit of taking us to see R-rated movies. But, once we got, cable, they would sort of try to police it, but, yeah, no, they didn't. And if we wanted to rent an R-rated movie from the video store, we would just have them call my house. And my mother would always say, yeah, okay. So, and that's sometimes because it was a horror movie and there was, blood and gore and there might be a boob. But it wasn't, Eyes Wide Shut, right? Or, a massively sex-filled movie. But the point is, they're not clamoring to make it illegal for kids to watch R-rated movies. They don't protest kids going into R-rated movies. They don't protest the sex shops. So, what's that about? Why are they so hardcore focused on drag queens? You know what else they don't protest? you don't see news stories or tweets about them protesting or railing against these Mormon communities where these adult men are marrying children, multiple children at that, where the kids are groomed to accept these highly subservient roles to men and to marry men and sleep with men. Why? Why don't they protest the hell out of that? Well, here's why. Because most of the sex in most R-rated movies is straight sex. Because sex shops, while they do sell, gay porn or whatever, and while those shops are patronized by the LGBT community as well as straight people, it's not exclusively LGBT stuff. And the Mormon stuff is all straight. The men and these little girls getting married. So what they're protesting, despite Marjorie Taylor Greene's mentioning of heterosexual sex, is homosexuality, LGBTQ sex. And it's because they think it's deviant. But even if it is, it's no better than exposing young minds to straight sex. Because sex, in general, is not a subject for little kids. Gay, straight, whatever. But they don't protest the heterosexual stuff. Now, is that because they're okay with kids being exposed to heterosexual sex stuff? Probably not. If you pressed them, they'd say, no, well, that's not good either. But they have such a hate boner for these drag shows because it's gay stuff. And, they have a right to feel that way and to protest whatever they want. But it's lopsided. And it's just unfair. They should go after all of it. And she says heterosexual stuff. She's full of shit. And the reason they won't go after the Mormons is not only because it's straight, but because to go after the Mormons, they have to make a case against religious freedom. They have to make a case that says religious freedom has its limits. Because, of course, the rebuttal to any attack on what the Mormons do would be that it's religious freedom. And they don't want to weaken the case for religious freedom because it allows them to get away with the same kind of bullshit that we're seeing when they protest these drag shows. And by that I mean protesting LGBTQ stuff. Gay weddings, all-inclusive sex education in the schools of the clinical stuff. That might include homosexuality or whatever. And so they don't want to weaken the religious freedom arguments that they often make against having to participate in that kind of stuff or accept it. So that's basically what that's about. They want to continue to be able to exclude gay people and discriminate against gay people on the basis of religious freedom, so they're not going to go after the Mormons because it's counterproductive to their own agenda. Yet they go after the gays, they go after these drag queens, and I don't know, it's just massively hypocritical. Drag shows can in fact be family friendly, just like anything else can be family friendly. Stand-up comics can be family friendly. There are many who are. Ironically, Bill Cosby was always one of them, which is interesting. But there are others, and there are stand-up comics who are raunchy as hell. And you don't see these people making blanket statements about don't expose children to stand-up comedy. Yet they have a specific rage boner against drag queens. It's not because they're against only the drag queens that have explicit content. It's because they're against drag queens whether they have explicit content or not, because they see drag and the underlying homosexuality as deviant. And again, they're allowed to feel that way and they're allowed to say what they want. But it's massively hypocritical that they don't then go after all these other things. I think sex in general in commercials and on TV shows, even broadcast TV, and in mainstream films, which again is largely heterosexual sex, is far more ever present in the lives of kids. Music, and to be fair, conservatives have protested that kind of stuff for decades. But it certainly has taken a back seat to coming out against the LGBTQ community and these drag queens. So it's just crazy to me. Like, they're laser focused on drag queens when it's such a small part of the exposure of kids to sexually charged stuff. And it's just ridiculous. So I think they need to stop it. Anyway, I replied to her tweet. You can go on the Twitter and find her tweet about drag shows. There's hundreds of them. Well, a ton of them anyway. And you'll find my comment. And, you know, you can get in on the discussion. You can get in on the discussion here. You can leave a comment. But I guess that's it for now. Once again, you've been watching Confronting Conservatives, and I'm Barry P. Cook. Have a good one.